So good morning and welcome to Lockdown 3 Experience Recovery Conversations. Today I'm joined by Marko Humphrey, and Marko works in Magna Vitae up in Lindsay, North Lindsay. So Marko, just before we start, give us an idea. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so I'm Marko, as you were just mentioning there. I'm based in East Lindsay in Louth. I work for Magna Vitae, and I'm part of the community health team, which involves myself and my colleagues supporting people in many different ways around the whole area of East Lindsay, which could be getting them moving more, eating better, stopping them, preventing isolation, those kind of things really.
Okay, so before lockdown, and I know it's difficult to remember before lockdown, does East Lindsay have particular challenges around its population? Because I know it's quite a rural population area, isn't it?
Yes, it is quite a diverse population, but there are definitely areas of deprivation, particularly around the Mablethorpe, the coastal areas, Skegness, etc. Maybe as you come in more inland, it is a bit different, that's true, but there does seem to be more problems with seasonal work, unemployment, more unhealthy diets, for example. Yeah, we see quite a lot of that.
Okay, so the challenges of geography and demographic exacerbate some of the activity that you've been engaged in prior to lockdown.
That's right, yeah, definitely. Obviously, with that in mind, we've tried to tailor the things we've delivered with that in mind. So some of our sessions, for example, with the Fitness, Food and Friends, we've tried to bring in people from all different areas like mental health, getting people online, preventing digital poverty, as well as eating better on a low budget, and simple exercise techniques, all things to just help, get people feeling better, thinking better, and just more better about themselves, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So that holistic approach to people's well-being, it's been interesting. And I guess, you talked about digital poverty there. You must have made quite a big difference to a lot of people. Had you not have done that prior to lockdown, there would be people in a very different position, I would guess.
That's true. I mean, prior to lockdown, what I've noticed is people were seeing being online, yes, as important, but a lot of people who maybe had never gone down that road thought, I don't really need to bother. I can just come to my groups, do my own thing. There's no need for it. But obviously during the lockdown, particularly now, I've noticed a lot of people who've said to me through lockdown, I don't need to bother with that. They're starting to come around now to the realization, I do need to, because it's such a big problem to me. I never saw this before. So that's
absolutely
been a big change there.
So give us a bit more detail then. So what would a normal day involve post-lockdown? What were you up to?
Okay, so post-lockdown, when it initially happened, you've got to realise as well, we went from being really busy, myself and my colleagues, Erica and Lizzie, we were going around East Lindsay doing, we weren't out every day, but we were doing a lot of stuff. And all of a sudden, you're at home. You're like a caged lion, if you like. You can't go anywhere. And then your mind goes to your group. So what are we going to do? Because a lot of the stuff is meeting up, socialization, having a cup of tea and a chat. And now it's like, oh, a lot of these people aren't online. A lot of these people have quite a lot of health needs. They may have memory problems. They may be struggling with other mental health conditions. So we started doing a format for our Magna Vitae community Facebook. So, for example, a Wellbeing Wednesday for some simple exercise, a Tasty Tuesday, a recipe, and me doing some cooking. But obviously, we weren't touching the people who weren't, those that couldn't get online. So our wellbeing telephone calls to a lot of people became incredibly important. We were kind of getting really familiar with them in terms of, I know what's going on in your life week to week, and trying to signpost them, support them, just guide them through it where we can. And the power of a simple conversation has really struck me, how I really, and the feedback we've been getting lately as well about, oh, thank you for these phone calls. I don't know what I would have done without them. It's quite amazing, really.
Yeah, it is. And, it's one of my very selfish reasons for doing what I'm doing with you now is I really miss that conversation with people and learning from people and sharing their best practice. So absolutely, it was one of the reasons I did all of this, you know, in lockdown 1 and 2. So I suppose I get some understanding of how people are feeling about that. But what intrigues me is that you went from a very getting together, very social type of activity, and actually probably one of the core themes of what you did, to a very much that online and telephone call. But you found the telephone calls have really worked. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think you've got to understand as well, we have a number of different projects. The Still Me project was for people with life-limiting conditions.
Right.
And as you can imagine, that was a lot of, say, dementia, memory problems, Parkinson's, that kind of thing. So by the very nature, that people group are less likely to be online. Very few of them were. So a lot of that obviously was much more about well-being calls. Is there anything we can fetch from the shops for you and bring things to you, or etc. The next group, Fitness, Food and Friends, was kind of a mixture. Some people who were quite savvy, they were already online, could do the emails, could do Zoom. Some of them could not. And the last group was chaps. So by the nature, this was just men.
Okay.
And the chaps group we had was primarily centered around sporting memories.
All right.
We've got a little group in Skegness. We were just about poised to start one in Mablethorpe the very week before the lockdown, right. So it didn't happen. And then it was about transferring those men and gaining new ones as well, and to engage via phone calls or Zoom. Now, to begin with, I found that the majority did not do Zoom. They may have a smartphone, but they were just texting and calling on it, nothing else. So it took quite some time to get some of them set up so they could use Zoom.
Right.
Using partners like Links Digital, who produce great user guides to Zoom, or even projects that Links Digital had and now we have, of getting them computer tablets, free of charge, set up, ready to go, so they can start to learn how to get onto Zoom as well. So it's been quite a gradual process to change from a phone to Zoom for some people.
Excellent. And I guess what you're alluding to there is something that I've heard from others, is actually this process of reframing what we do has also introduced us to new organizations and other organizations who now know us and we know them, that can support. So people like you said, the Links IT people, the people that have been helping with tablets, that might not have been a relationship that you would have ever had we not gone through this process.
Yeah, I think in some ways we might have had the relationship to a certain degree, but it's definitely deeper now because we've had to support one another or signpost to one another, and also schemes like the Good Neighbour scheme that have popped up in different towns and villages, where we've worked alongside them, or they've contacted us. Can you do anything for Albert? He's really struggling at the moment. We're not sure what to do. That's been, and then what we did do early on in lockdown, Magna Vitae produced sort of a digital platform on the website, which was a hugely comprehensive guide to pretty much everything you would need to know about, whether it was what shops can deliver to me, how can I get my prescription delivered, pretty much everything really. So that was
fantastic. That's really good. And the whole reason for this conversation, Marko, is yes, to share the good practice and let people know, but what I'm really interested in is what you've learned from lockdown and how that will change what you do in the future, how you will be better as a result of what you've learned.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I think the first thing I've realized is the power of the simple conversation, which, not that I didn't before, but I think I've learned that even more to a deeper degree, just having that relationship and just encouraging people and realizing everybody's wired to want to have encouragement, support. They need a purpose. Everyone, to have that identity. There's one thing I've noticed, particularly with the men's group, because a lot of them are into football, the whole identity thing. So I've learned, groups, getting people together in groups of similar likes and dislikes. One example from this morning, I just rang up one of the participants, and she was saying her husband, who's been in the Sporting Memories, he opened the present that we'd got for him in the Christmas hamper, and he went, "Oh, it's amazing, it's an Aston Villa book." Because he knew he was an Aston Villa fan. It's part of his identity. He opens it up. she said, oh, he reads a little bit every day. He couldn't believe that how busy you lot are. You thought to get him a book on his team
Right.
that he's opened up and read. It makes him feel really special. And I thought, wow, that's quite an amazing bit of feedback. So that is definitely a key area. The whole thing with digital, I've learned a huge amount there. That a lot of people were surviving on, say, a smartphone that they didn't really use. They can text, they can call, they can't use Zoom on it because they don't know how to do that. And it's such a tiny screen that even if they could, that they can't really. So that's definitely been a big, or people who've had a partner who's maybe passed away, they were online, they did all the computing, but now the other one's left on their own and they haven't got a clue really about doing that. And becoming more isolated because of that.
Okay,
well.
That's really interesting. I personally have found that I'm fitter, healthier, leaner, spending much more quality time with my family than I ever would have done, because I normally drive 35,000 miles a year. So have you seen anything around that nutrition and that sort of energy in side of the equation change?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I mean, first of all, I agree with what you said about the traveling, because obviously that completely stopped in what we were doing. And yeah, from the things I was posting online with people and the feedback I was getting as well, people were definitely much more interested in how can I cook good meals now on the food I'm getting, because I'm only kind of surviving on X, Y, and Z because I haven't got the money anymore, or we get the delivery now, but most of the stuff I wanted isn't in this pack. So it was being more savvy around giving people good recipes, easily achieved, that gives them good nutrition and they feel better about it. And also we would talk about simple little things they could do at home, particularly thinking of the Sporting Memories group that was linked, to their love of sport or football. They could do the exercises going up and down the stairs, or with the exercise bands, which people were quite, they seemed to be a little bit more interested in that, because I think they realised they weren't doing anything or going anywhere. So it was more important to do something, otherwise, the muscles will start to waste away.
Absolutely. Okay, you've got 1 minute left, Marko. What's the one tip you could give us all around surviving lockdown 3, but thriving outside of lockdown?
Okay, so surviving lockdown 3. First tip I think I would give is, don't think you're alone and you're the only one who's going through what you're going, because most people are. So first of all, I think it's maybe just I'd encourage people to reach out, whether that's on the landline, the mobile phone, whichever way they want, because they'll normally find people are pretty pleased to hear, and try and build those relationships. Don't sit on problems and think nobody's interested, whether that means your GP or your neighbour. Talk to people, talk about how you're feeling, talk about the problems you might be facing, because I think that is one of the big key areas I've noticed with people. I mean, I phone an elderly chap up every week, and the one thing he always finishes the conversation for me. He sort of goes, right, I think that's it then. But he always says, ring me again next week, won't you? Always says that. And I say, of course, I will. So I think that's some of the major tips. And just sort of look after yourself, be kind to yourself, try and eat well, and try and do some type of exercise, whether that's a bit of a walk around your block or just it makes you feel better. It makes you just feel that bit better.
Absolutely.
So simple,
and that's a really good note to finish on, because I'm now off for a walking meeting around my local park with somebody. So that's really good timing. Marko, thank you so much for your time. That's been really, really useful. And in the content of the post, people will be able to connect with you. So we'll share that very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.